Welcome to Alfredo's Size 3 Taco Truck, a Marvel Crisis Protocol podcast. The only podcast that knows how Red Skull's leadership works. I'm Vincent Curkov.
I'm Pat Van Value.
I'm Nate Horn.
I'm Alex Botts.
And we're podcasting before LVO because the internet bullied us into it.
Hooray!
Does
We
everyone
totally
here know how Red Skull's leadership work? Was that a true statement for all four hosts?
It can't
I
possibly
think I know.
be true.
Wait, I bet I know how it works.
Okay, go for it.
It's so it happens on your, I think it's called Modify Dice step, which is after it happens on your Resolve Criticals step, because it's the important thing is that it or add criticals or whatever the fuck it's called, because the important thing is that it happens before the defense person rolls their dice, which is like how Malekith works now. It's not how Malekith used to work. And it also, if it gets changed later, the shit's lost. That's what I know. If there's anything else to know, I don't know how it works.
No, you got there.
That's it.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
It only took them 3 months. Well, 4 days shy of 3 months, but you know.
And it's funny because now there's like a special tax on Red Skull, which is that if you're playing Red Skull 3, the game takes twice as long because you can't roll dice simultaneously ever.
Yeah, for any character. You can do it once they've used it. So if they roll if they explode the crit on the first attack.
You can only do it once per turn. Yeah, you're right.
And he's probably playing Ultron, so you can do it for the grunt attacks.
Okay, so the game only probably takes like a quarter as long.
Yeah, correct.
It's not that bad. People overstate how much time it. As somebody who's played into Malekith a lot, has played Domino a lot, it's annoying, but it's really not that bad.
Well, but I mean, this is like every model, though.
I know.
Yeah, but anyway, I'm exaggerating definitely, but it's funny that you have to do that to play that model. Makes me laugh.
I mean, it's annoying. The main thing that I think is annoying about it is that it took them so long.
Yes.
Yeah.
So like, Second Wind had to make a ruling. I wanted very much not to make that ruling. I think this also makes it so that we got every single ruling we made at Second Wind wrong.
Yep.
Hell yeah.
0%, baby.
Right? We got dig in wrong.
Yep.
Because for some reason I thought that actions were friendly effects. Silly
Why would
me.
you think that?
Yeah, exactly. Which is cool. I think that card probably should see some amount of play, but I don't play Cabal, so I'm not going to be the one that does that.
Well, you're going to be playing Cabal soon.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I'm really excited to paint my Cabal. And joint effort affects every attack made under it. Card's still trash.
Yep.
And then Red Skull, we got wrong. We said
Twice.
It works like the reality gem. And then we made a fourth ruling.
Yeah, the other Red Skull thing we got wrong.
Oh yeah, how the leadership or how the power thing worked. We also got wrong.
Yep.
Woo! Best TO in America, guys.
That is amazing, yeah.
I mean, the upside of that is like outside, for the two Red Skull ones, we went with more generous interpretations, which I think was the right thing to do. Like, we kind of gave him the best possible outcomes for both of those, which is at least more fun, even if we ended up getting it wrong.
I think we gave him the most generous thing we thought they might actually rule on.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
Like, because they were definitely like, because for Red Skull, the power thing, I think we said you could only pull from one person.
Yes, that sounds right.
And I didn't think they would rule that multiple people ever. I was surprised by you have to have the spender power, but it just makes people play the character correctly. So shouldn't be doing that spender like pretty much ever. Like, does Red Skull have 10 power and is standing next to somebody who has 10 power that they can't spend? Let's start spender. Okay, so on the docket today, we are talking about our lists and the stuff that we're playing right now because we weren't full of ideas. And we're being
it's been a bit since we gave people an update, and me and Pat change factions occasionally, unlike you two. So
Well, and I think most importantly is that you and Pat have found lists that you're excited about. And the level of excitement
that's true.
differs per person, because Pat is never as excited about anything. But
Yeah.
I still think, for relative measurements, you're both at fairly high levels of excitement, which is not always true about this game. So I think that's worth talking about and recording on.
Yeah, that's fair. And the Discord said we had to.
That's true.
So.
They demanded you stop hiding all of your secret Brotherhood tech,
Yeah.
and you share it with the world.
Yeah. So I'm gonna do that starting right now. So I'm playing Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. That is actually what they're called, right?
Yeah.
And didn't you say it was like ironic at game night or something?
There's one of my favorite comic book writers, Brian K. Vaughan, did a series called Mystique, which is just
Who's it about?
Mystique. And her token. Really, mostly her token. So you really should read this.
Hell yeah. Damn, I
but,
should read that.
the premise of it is that, like, Xavier gets, like, blackmail on Mystique and is able to essentially, like, trick her into doing Black Ops missions for the X-Men they can't be tied to. And it's really cool and really interesting. And one of them, they she gets arrested or something, and they're like, "You worked for the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants." You're like, "We were freedom fighters," and you're like, "It says evil mutants." And she was like, "It was ironic."
That's funny. But they are freedom fighters, aren't they?
Yeah,
Mostly.
sort of.
I mean, that's what her leadership says, right?
Well, does it say that? I don't remember.
Do you know the name of Mystique's leadership?
No. The leadership's name is
Token.
Scenario Goofs.
That's correct. Accurate. 1 point to Alexander Bartholomew Box.
But yeah, I'm playing Brotherhood, making good on a promise indirectly made about 2 years ago that no one except me remembers that I said, which is that the way the game is designed, the consistent factions that are more reliable for long-term competitive play are probably going to be the scenario ones and not the attrition ones because of how the dice work. I said this like 2 years ago, back when Glenwood Morris, our friend Glenwood, friend of the show, was still playing, and he agreed with me, and then we both started playing fighting factions. I think that thing is true generally, but I have tended to play the fighty factions that are so good or so consistent that they kind of break that rule. Like, it's like very, very little about Old Malekith was like particularly dicey. And I think that's also true of like how Black Order works generally because of Thanos and Corvus. But in general, I think it's more reliable to play a scenario game because you rely somewhat less on attack dice and stuff. And so I'm playing Brotherhood, and I am playing exclusively Mystique leadership. That's only been true sort of recently. I started playing Brotherhood a couple months ago by playing both Magneto and Mystique. But recently I have dropped Magneto and I'm just playing Mystique. And I really like them. I think they are probably not as good as Web Warriors, but I think you could make an argument that they are the second best extract-focused team in the game. I think that they have a lot of really cool dynamic tricks, and they have a roster of they have an incredibly deep roster. They have like 2 or 3 models at the top of the Brotherhood tier list that are just like godlike models in the game. And then they have a bunch of other choices that are not like S tier models, but are just really good. And then, I don't know, we'll talk about the list and then I'll go into...
Before we get into that, Alex, why don't you just relive, you rated your favorite models in Brotherhood. If you could just recount at least the top 3 from that list, I think that'd be really helpful for our listeners.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So my number 1 favorite Brotherhood model is Mystique's leadership token. My second favorite Brotherhood model is Pyro. And then my third favorite Brotherhood model is Captain America Sam. Though I think those
high praise.
Those 3 really define the faction and how I play them. So, should I just list the list, or do people want to say more about Brotherhood first, or what should I do? I don't know how to do this.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll jump into the listing here in a second, but
Okay.
I think your assessment of them being one of the best scenario teams is absolutely true.
Yeah.
I guess we'll get into my X-Men complaints later, but I definitely believe that this list is better at handling extracts than X-Men is right now. Right.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. From what I've seen.
I think that's an easy argument to make when you have an affiliated steal and easy access to other steals, and I have 0 affiliated steals, but we'll get into that. But I do think, I don't know, I don't think people respect how good of a scenario team Mystique is at the moment, right? Like,
yeah,
and I think, you know, a lot of Brotherhood players want to do Magneto shit because he's cool and he's fun to play, and that includes myself. Every time I try to play Brotherhood, I want to make Magneto stuff happen because it's just a lot of fun. But there's a lot. There's a lot going on here.
Yeah, and they sort of the nice thing about the Mystique's leadership is that I don't think it's as good at one specific thing as like having like the X-Men stuff that they can do, like the Storm Hop and First Class and stuff, where they can really like dominate, or even like Asgard, where they can really like crunch people on pay-to flips and stuff like that. I don't really think that Mystique has like one specific style of Crisis that she's just an unbeatable god on. But I do think it's like insanely flexible. Like you are always like, Researcher is the only thing in the game that turns off part of her leadership, basically. Or well, I guess that's not true. Pay to flips turn off her secure half, and Researcher turns off her extract half. So I guess if you got Researcher and pay to flips, which is impossible with my scenario setup, but if you got both of those, her leadership would be useless. But in any other circumstance, you're going to have some like cute stuff that you can do basically for the entire run of the game. So it's never going to be as like dominant as like the First Class turn or whatever, but it's always going to be live as long as Mystique's alive, and you can always come up with like some unusual stuff to do that people won't expect. So I really like that. And I play pretty wide and big and fast scoring scenarios because I think that as long as most of the Brotherhood models are alive and Mystique's leadership is still going, they can kind of they're like insanely hard to deal with when there's like, you know, 8 or more points available on the field. Basically, she's just like running around grabbing stuff, putting tokens down, doing goofy grabs and runaways. You have at least one steal with Pyro pretty much always, and then there's I have Rhino in the list too, so there's another steal there. You have Toad as like an affiliated guy who can take scenario tokens from allies and do all this other stuff. So there's just like, I don't know, there's like always something to do, which I think is really nice.
Yeah, and like usually I think it's really hard to explain like how powerful her leadership is because it doesn't seem like it gives you that much over the course of the game. But picking up extracts, it doesn't literally cost you nothing, but it pretty close to costs you nothing. Whereas like on other characters, you know, like one power can be a big deal.
Yeah, totally. And it does. So I'm just going to list the list, and then we can talk about like why what Vince said is absolutely true. So so my list right now is, like I said, it's solo Mystique. That's the only Brotherhood leader. Sam's in there too, but I don't play Avengers. So it's Mystique, Juggernaut, Pyro, Quicksilver, Sabretooth, Apex Predator, Toad, and the Blob for my affiliated models, and then Hulk, Captain America, and Rhino as my 3 splashes. Of those, the Blob is the most... The Blob and Quicksilver are kind of equally on the chopping block, and either of them could become Rogue. I like this version the best right now, but I understand that Rogue is useful for some meta stuff that that might be relevant. And then for tactics, Sacrifice and Deception are my restricteds, and then I have Pyrotechnics, AS3TT, This Is a Robbery, Do You Know Who I Am, Can I Borrow That, Fallback, Exceptional Healing, and Mission Objective. Which you can look at that list, and one of the things that probably jumps out is that this list has like several of the best character-specific cards in the game. Like, I mean, deception, I think you could argue because it's restricted, maybe doesn't fall into that list anymore, but Mystique is my leader in every list, so there's no question I'm bringing deception. And then it has pyrotechnics, this is a robbery, do you know who I am, can I borrow that, and exceptional healing is, in my list, is unique to Sabretooth Apex Predator, because he's the only guy with healing factor. And all of those cards fucking own. And then for my secures, I have Mayor Fisk, Superpowered Scoundrels, and Riot's Spark Over Extremists. And then for Extracts Crisis, I have Paranoia, Senators, and Skrulls. So yeah, I mean, it's just like wide, high scoring stuff that's like, if you don't go wide enough, you will run out of dudes to pick up all this shit and contest all of these secures. And because of the token, the token, and because of the other half of the leadership, I will basically always have dudes to pick up stuff. Like there's like always somebody running around grabbing things. And then just as like an example of what Vince is talking about how the leadership unlocks stuff, I think people who play against Brotherhood at all probably have seen this list before, so it's not like I invented it or anything. I think it's pretty common, but it's one of the reasons to play Brotherhood is like on Senators, for example, which is the 2 lines of 3 extracts. At 19 points, it's pretty easy for me to have both Juggernaut and Hulk on the field, and both of those can double walk to an opponent's Senator, pick it up, and then slide away. Or, well, yeah, Juggernaut slides away and Hulk jumps away. But because they get the refund, and in other factions they would not be able to do that. So stuff like that is just like always on the table, which is extremely strong.
Yeah, I think the Mystique leadership is interesting to talk about because it does a thing that Discord and podcasts hate, which is that it's very hard to talk about because a lot of the value is very situational. Like there are a very short list of turn 1 plays you can do. You just listed out the most common and popular one. There's like 3 other ones of those. But then the rest of that leadership is something you use situationally, right? Which is like not true of most other leaderships, right? Even ones that aren't giving you like turn 1 plays. But if we look at like Iron Man's leadership, right? That's situational in that when you use it is going to vary. But the value of it is pretty immediately apparent, right? It is, I pay a power, I get a reroll. We know that's a good thing to have. The Mystique leadership is so hard to talk about in podcasting form or in Discord form, because it's like, oh, I can put this token down anywhere and hold a point, and then somebody's like, oh, well, I can just have any model I want go walk over there, and then your leadership doesn't do anything, right? Like the perfect counters always exist in a verbal conversation about it, which is not at all true in the game, right? And it's hard to quantify the value in pulling someone out of position to go deal with your shit when putting that token out, right? Because that thing is crazy strong. It's very, very good, and I've been trying to figure out how to quantify that in any kind of meaningful way, and I think it's impossible even for a Kurkovian math wizard.
Oh, you
God.
think so? Okay.
Yes.
Imagine you
I
had
have a Kurkovian pitch too. But yeah, go ahead, Vince.
Imagine you had a 2-threat model, right? That was kind of like trash, but like could stand on points. And then he had an innate superpower that said, you don't have to activate this model if you don't want to.
That's such an interesting way to say that, because I think we're saying basically the same things, but the thing about activating isn't really how I think about it. I guess what I think about is like, so
it's like being one wider, but it doesn't force you to go last.
Yeah, that's basically what I was gonna say. Is it's like, so a lot of times in this game, both players need to put someone on a far point where they basically don't do anything.
Yes.
Like their home, whatever the fuck, their home scenario or the researcher or whatever. And I think sometimes in this game, you lose because your opponent put the right one on their back and you put the wrong one on your back. Like you dedicate a model, even if it's like a 2-point model, but especially if it costs 3 or more, to sitting on a point and doing nothing, and it turns out later in the game that model is crucial to how the rest of the game is being resolved, and you don't have the actions to replace it with a different model. You can't like swap,
Yeah. I think that happens a lot, just to help people kind of visualize what you're talking about. I think that happens a lot on D-shapes, where you put, because you want to put someone self-sufficient out on a flank, right? Like a lot of times you don't want to send your squishy rando to the center of the board. You want to send like a Logan or someone who can hold their own in a fight to one of the flanks. And then if your opponent abandoned that flank, you're stuck in this puzzle of like, well, Logan's over there scoring me VPs. Is that enough? Or do I need Logan to come over here and actually do Logan things and blow up the table? Right. I think that is an extremely common situation where the Mystique leadership just solves that problem for you.
Yeah, exactly. So I think part of what the leadership does is it makes you never lose that way. Like you can't make that mistake. You just can't. And also you can punish people for making that mistake against you very heavily. Because also if they send someone and your opponent's model, their only job for a couple turns is to destroy your leadership token, it might feel like you get countered, but that probably opens it up somewhere else on the map, and you have it opens up another secure somewhere else to be vulnerable to that, and you have multiple long move models in Mystique and Sam, multiple goof move models, Mystique, Sam, and Quicksilver, and then multiple goof move models in like Toad and Juggernaut, and also you have Asteroid M, at least some games. So like it's really hard to actually keep the Mystique token from doing nothing in a game. Like I would say it's basically impossible. You can mitigate it, and it has worse games and better games, but it's like it's this like this additional it's like there's an additional mini game on the field that will never win me the game on my own, but also I can never lose it. So
so I have a question about that. Because I agree with everything you said about the strength of this leadership making like rotations and maneuvering around the board and allocating forces much easier for you, right? And I think that you should be bringing crises that enhance that factor, which you did on 5 of the 6 of these, and then also Fisk is here. Why the fuck is Fisk here?
Well, Fisk is... Yeah, I like Fisk because I have two high cost models that are immune to stun, and it's still a fast scoring secure. But I'm definitely open to some of my extracts, or I mean, some of my crises being wrong.
Yeah, but. So the 2 models immune to stun is cool and cute and whatever. You know what I mean? Like it's not bad, but I've been playing Fisk a lot more recently than I ever have because our local Wakanda player, with the Thanos in there, because Thanos and M'Baku are both immune to stun, has been playing a shit ton of that. That Crisis, when played correctly, almost always devolves into like a central brawl. Like it's up there with Gamma as far as big fighting pile in the middle, which I don't think plays to the strengths that we just talked about with your leadership.
Okay, that's fair.
I definitely think it's one that can like. So Fisk is, I think the reason that Alex sees a lot of success with Fisk is it is like the least played secure of all time.
Yes.
Like every person that he plays it against has less games on it than he does.
For sure.
And
yeah, that's probably been true. Yeah.
The effing funniest thing in the world is when your opponent scores a Fisk, it moves away, and then you keep them off it, and you like can put the Mystique token on it.
Yeah.
And it just like, they're like, oh god, I have to like stun my own models, or I have to still spend actions putting the thing on it. I don't know. I think it's really funny.
There's cute things you can do on it, and I don't think it's like a disaster for him, but I think it's mostly just cute stuff. And as people catch up to how to play on Fisk, and as he plays into like what I would consider a true Fisk team, it will come out of the roster very quickly after that.
That's true. I don't think I've played against Wakanda once with this team. At least not once since I've been Fisk in, for sure. Yeah. So that's definitely possible. What would you suggest I replace it with?
Infinity?
I think Infinity's okay. I think if you like 16 threat, Cosmic Invasion would be totally fine here.
I don't care too much about it being 16 threat. I mean, I'm not opposed to 16, but
just because I think D shapes are really, really good for that leadership. And stressing people out on the rotates, so that's Cosmic Invasion is probably where I would start.
Okay, yeah, I would try that out maybe. The other thing about this list in general is probably players who are familiar with Brotherhood understand this, but this list has an insane amount of displacement. Like it moves enemy models so frequently because I'm playing Sam often, and then I have Juggernaut very often, Pyro with pyrotechnics, and then flavor of a lot of other stuff. Sabretooth has a great throw. Hulk obviously moves people around constantly. This is a robbery, and then the Blob is insane if you use him. But yeah, or can be insane. I mean, his stuff is all in wilds, but it can be extremely strong. So that's another thing, is that like this list tends to like take an early scenario lead and kill like one model, usually somebody that gets decepted if my opponent falls for that, or if I don't, then whoever has to get close enough to me to like keep in a scenario game, and then just kind of runs away with as many points as I can hold on to for the rest of the game. And it's very fun and dynamic, and I think very strong. So yeah.
Sorry, getting back to the Fisk thing real quick. I also think
sure.
the Fisk thing is really good into webs. Like, I think if webs win priority against you, they kind
I
of
have played against webs, but I don't think we got Fisk. Yeah, no, we didn't get Fisk.
I mean,
they kind of have a devil's conundrum. Like, they have a scenario on each side they don't want to see. They don't want to play Senators into Brotherhood, and they don't want to play Fisk into Brotherhood.
So I agree that it's good into webs, but I think you're running into like he could put Gamma in his list. Gamma would be bad for webs, but that makes him worse into a lot of other things. Right?
I also think it's good into Guardians. I think it's good into the 2 S tier.
I don't
factions.
think it's very good into Guardians.
I think Fisk is pretty good into Guardians.
I think it'll be good into Guardians players who don't know how to play Fisk, and maybe that's good enough for the time being. But I think if the Guardians player realizes, I can just not play CGR here and beat you up with the rest of my team just fine, it won't be an issue for them.
That's interesting. All right, well, I'll think about Fisk.
That doesn't sound like any Guardians player I know.
The other thing, I think Nate wanted me to mention this because he said that I couldn't leave the podcast because I told him this. So
yeah.
I assume that implies that I have to say it on the podcast. So before I was playing Brotherhood, I was playing Inhumans. I played them in Second Wind, and I got owned. And I didn't practice enough, and I did terribly, and it was sad. Everybody cried. Everybody in the venue was crying.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we were figuring out what I should play next, and I was enjoying Brotherhood when I first started playing them, and Nate asked me why I like them more than Inhumans, basically. And I told him this thing that I feel like I've probably posted something along these lines on the Discord at some point or other, but I can't remember. But there's like a type of model in Marvel that I really hate, which are not objectively bad. I think like they're not my hatred of playing them is not necessarily indicative of strength, but there's this type of model, and they're usually 3 or 4 costs. I'm just going to go with the 3 cost version, and they tend to have about 5 HP. They tend to have 5 HP, and they tend to be like 3/3/3 defenses, and they tend to get most of their action through attacks, and also attacks that are builders, not gainers, builders specifically, and they generate 1 power a turn. And these models, to me, are models that are entirely based around Marvel's dice. Like, they exist to give you 2 actions where you pull the slot machine that are Marvel's dice. And so like talking about Inhumans, Miss Marvel and Crystal are 2 examples of those, in my opinion. Especially Crystal, but Miss Marvel as well. And they are fine models, good models even. Like, I don't think they're bad 3 threats. But I don't like playing these models that can randomly spike opponents and can randomly be spiked in ways that are like, in both directions, that are like dramatically different from their point cost, I think. I would much prefer to play models that rarely spike stuff, or like don't go crazy all the time, but also are more reliably alive, or more reliably do the thing I pay them for, even if their dice go bad. So that is part of why Rogue is not in my list, too. Rogue definitely has stuff that is good, like the drain superpower thing, is excellent. That's definitely a really strong tool to have. But if you try to get her to do anything other than the drain, you have to have her interact with the slot machine a bit. And I don't like how she can do so little if she flubs some attacks, or also can be kind of evaporated, though she's much tankier than the 3 costs I'm describing, but still, she can kind of be evaporated by like the top of the line models in the game, and then feel like she didn't do anything. And I think Brotherhood is one of the teams that can play the least of those models. I think that of my list of 10 models, Mystique would be that if she didn't have a leadership and didn't have deception. And
but
then,
she also has stealth and martial artist. Like she's not just a vanilla 3-3-3-5 health the way that
well,
Pyro kind of is.
Blowing up buildings too, also.
Yeah, totally. So she's like close to the line, but over the line on the side of righteousness. And then Sabretooth is the other person who is the closest to this. But I think there are two things. No, I think he would be close if you couldn't play exceptional healing. Like I think that he can get evaporated way faster than I would like him to for a 4 cost, and also he only generates 1 power a turn and needs 3 to do anything fun. But the leadership helps him do anything fun because he can pick up an extract and still be like, I don't know, on tempo, whatever, on power tempo. And then the exceptional healing thing makes whichever model you dedicate exceptional healing to last way longer in a game. And if he lasts way longer, he's going to actually be able to do his fun stuff. And then once he's at 3, he really is a god. I mean, like the character throw, a 3 cost 3 size medium character throw is such insane value. And then if he ever does spike, he really starts murdering people. It's crazy. Or moving infinity miles per hour. So
it's like he's so dependent on his first attack.
Yeah, but that's the thing, is I don't actually think he is really in Brotherhood as much.
Well,
as long
Mystique,
as you're not playing him,
he's less so.
Yeah, exactly. And as long as you're not playing him every game, like, because you try to only play him in places where he does need to get attacked by his opponent, and then he can be very reliable. But I agree with you, he is reliant on his first attack in some circumstances, or if he's operating alone and stuff like that, for sure.
So I was not going to disagree with you where you put Sabretooth on this list, but I think there are 2 models I see in your 10 that are much closer to the side of evil and badness that I'm surprised are ones you did not talk about. So why do you hate Crystal but like Pyro?
Because of pyrotechnics.
This card's fucking broken.
Yeah, it's because of pyrotechnics and also pyrotechnics and firewall. I mean, I don't think like firewall is insane, and you have firewall every turn 2 in Brotherhood again, because if he picks up something, he still has 2 power on turn 2 without interacting with anybody. And
he also has a gainer, so like he doesn't
so does
have.
Crystal.
Also he has a gainer.
Crystal also has gainers,
so
that doesn't count. Get out of here.
But like,
but also she doesn't have anything to do with her power anyway.
Yeah, it just gets her another pull at the slot machine. Like it's not.
Yeah. Listen, I
that's the other
understand
thing.
there's a difference, but I wanted to have bots justify it.
Yeah. I think that's so. It's funny that you asked that, because I actually think I almost said that Pyro is like one of the farthest 3s from that, just because of how valuable Firewall and the Steel are. Like, I mean, Pyrotechnics is like a broken fucking... Like, I'm playing the Pyrotechnics faction, and I know, like, anybody can take Pyrotechnics, but, like, my gimmick is based on the leadership in Pyrotechnics, and Pyrotechnics existing. And I don't... Like, yeah, obviously, Pyro does literally need to hit a wild to get the fire going, which is a downside of both Pyrotechnics and the other stuff on his card. But no matter how many wilds you miss, he can always firewall people every 2 turns, even if nobody interacts with him and he does nothing else. And I think that that's, like, invaluable. And I wouldn't pay 3 power or 3 threat for just that, but I'd think about it. So...
Okay. And then
what was the next one?
Yeah, the other one you have to justify or be sent to jail. The Blob.
Yeah, the Blob is maybe even closer than Sabretooth, because he really, really needs his wilds. The thing about the Blob is, well, the thing about both Sabretooth and the Blob is they're not every game food, right? Like, I don't I definitely don't play either of those models in the majority of my games. And where I play Blob, the fact that he can't be pushed by attacks is a big part of his selling point. So I'm sort of choosing to play him in places where even if he flops his wilds, he should still be getting some value. And I don't like if I was playing him every game, I think I'd be pretty mad at him. But the fact that I'm not, and that I can't really fit him all the time, means to me that he gets a little bit of an exception. Also, I guess he is slot machine-y, definitely, but on his spender, the result of the slot machine is so insane that it's like, it makes it feel a little bit better about going for it. It's like, I'm not gambling just to get three threat out of him. I'm gambling because if this hits, it might like win me the game on its own.
Yeah, it's like putting $5 on a horse that's 1 to 20 payout. You're like, I don't really feel bad about this.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Well,
yeah.
like the odds aren't that bad. Like you just need a single wild, right? You're not chasing for a big spike. You're not looking for anything crazy. You just need one wild on 7 dice, and then Blob is MVP of the game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I mean, like I said this. I don't know. I said this in our chat, and I don't want to like harp on one particular game that I played against Vince, but this week I played Blob against Vince, and he did 2 thunderous splashes and pushed 8 models. Two of which got dazed by it. So
1 health like, Blob lived. So Blob is 1 health going into the turn, right? Yeah. I open up with Crimson Dynamo, who shoots him twice. He sacks the second one. I don't kill Blob, right? And the first one that goes, I dump 3 rerolls into to try to get a damage. And a def 2. I don't manage it.
Yep.
And then he hits double wild, reroll double wild with disruption field, hits double wild again. And
just also, to be clear, I only needed one of those 2 to stay. But yeah, I did get both back. That was really funny.
That's amazing.
Also, in classic style, he rolls his attack dice. I don't look at his attack dice. I go, do you remember you were shocked? And he goes, nope. And he had like a hit. And re-rolls it into 5 hits with 2 of them being wilds. And then confirms both wilds.
Easy.
Get outplayed.
I was completely and utterly outplayed by 4 wild, 6 die.
Correct. Moving on from your complaint. So, like, I want to be clear that, like, I'm making you defend Pyro and Blob, not because I think they're bad models. Like, I'm the biggest Blob fan here, probably.
I don't know about that. You haven't talked to Alex in a while.
Well, so it's not that I think they're like bad models or don't fit the list or don't fit what you're trying to do, but I think hearing you explain your thought processes of why with your, the criteria you have and like the grading rubric you have for models, that these 2 still pass, even given all the conditions you laid out, which...
Yeah, and I mean, like no matter what model you're playing, every model in the game has to interact with the dice to some extent. And like Pyro defensively can just get blown out by some random fucking thing. He can take 5 damage randomly and evaporate, which sucks. But I think for those guys, there's enough upside where you do play them that it makes me feel more okay about it. And that's part of, I guess, I think I wasn't 100% clear about this, but like the way I had constructed my Inhumans lists was I ended up playing Crystal and Miss Marvel, or at least one of them, and usually both, in a ton of games. And that was part of what was frustrating to me. It wasn't just like they're in my 10 and I'm so mad I'm going to quit the faction. It was like, in order for the math to work out, I needed one or both of them pretty much every time, which was frustrating. And I feel like in Brotherhood, I'm playing like one of that type of model maximum a game. Which,
the model quality is just so much higher.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
I think
the model quality of this roster is nuts when you stop to think about it, right? Like, your splashes, you're splashing 3 out of faction models, which most people would agree Hulk, Sam Wilson, and Rhino are 3 of the best characters in the game. Like, inarguably, they're in the conversation for best in the game at what they do.
Yeah.
And then,
totally.
Alex, you have the best 4, the best 5, and the best 6 threat in the game right here.
Yeah, I know.
Does he have
good.
the best 4?
Yeah.
He's saying Rhino. I mean, I
like that's the one you're fighting
running,
on,
but
not the best 5 threat.
Oh, yeah.
Just snuck it past him.
Dynamo. Anyways, and then the rest of your roster is also just like a who's who of good models that will get splashed or played. You know what I mean? Like Juggernaut, good model, we'll see play outside of faction. Mystique, same thing. Pyro, incredible model, gets splashed all the time. Toad, lots of people think he's the best 2-threat in the game. Just like the modder quality here is off the fucking charts.
Yeah, like I mean, just as a as just like an example list, you could be playing like Mystique, Sam, Pyro, Toad. Juggernaut is 16, and then I don't know, you throw in that's 16, so you throw in Sabretooth at 20 or something, and I don't even know what the scenario that's for. Maybe I won't play that, but like which model are you complaining about? I guess Sabretooth is like not as good as the other ones, but it's just like everybody has like good actions that they can do. You have a bunch of stupid fucking cards to play on people, like it's sick.
Yeah,
or that Sabretooth could even be Rhino to even make it more just like an all-star team. So
I think also a great example of like the strength of Brotherhood is that we're going to get to in a little bit Pat's list, and Pat is only playing 4 in-faction models, and you're playing 7.
Yep. Yeah.
All right. That's wildly different model quality.
Yeah, totally. And there are still more Brotherhood models that I'm not playing that are at least solid. Like I mean, both Rogue and Colossus are totally reasonable picks in here, and then there's Magneto too. I'm like not playing an entire wing of the faction. I
don't know. I've soured on Magneto pretty hard. I think you just can't play a 6-threat that's not broken.
You're right.
I think he is playable in isolation, and I think he takes more card. Like I would just prefer playing this playstyle, and I do think it maybe like the other thing is that. So I was thinking one of the other things about not playing Magneto is that you, Vince, are like one of my most common opponents, obviously, and like so you are one of the factions that brings like ease and close clustered scenarios and stuff, but you are probably the worst one to play Magneto against. So it kind of feels bad because part of the reason you would take Magneto is like a flex for low threat tight scenarios. And my most common low threat tight scenario opponent, I would not take Magneto against anyway. Yeah. So I think that's like that makes him worth even less for me. And you do need at least 1 or 2 cards to support him. So
I also think he's kind of a liability into anybody playing Cosmic Ghost Rider as well, which I think makes him just like. So if we're talking about strictly competitive only here, like there's very little in Marvel that's like completely unplayable. That isn't like and like can't like win games, half the time. There's not a lot of stuff like that because of the way like the dice work and blah 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 blah. We've had this conversation before. But if Magneto's not playable in like quote unquote the best Brotherhood roster, he's not playable anywhere.
Right? I mean, I agree with that.
I think that if you're going to play a 6-threat or higher character, the character needs to be insane. The way that like Hulk is insane.
Hulk is definitely easier to run than Magneto. That's for sure.
I don't know. This is going to be a large rat hole that's not worth going down.
Yeah.
I think that's a
rat hole.
Kind of insane statement to make in that, 1, I don't think Hulk is insane broken. 2, I don't think Immortal Hulk is insane broken, and I think Immortal Hulk is perfectly playable in Midnight Suns. But I also think that like there's room to play Magneto here that would be, I think, the one thing I will agree with, it'd be a very different roster than what Spots had here, and would have to give up the stuff that he's finding fun and interesting about Brotherhood, so it's not worth him exploring that space. But I think you're giving Magneto short shrift.
I mean, I like Magneto's design a lot. Like, I'm a big fan of Magneto. I would love to live in a world where Magneto is the best 6-threat. And they don't change how strong he is. All right, Alex, do you have anything else you want to talk about with this list? Or anything?
I don't know. Not really. I mean, I don't really have like secret tech or anything, and sort of what Nate was saying was about the leadership being kind of hard to talk about is true, because like it's a lot about like adapting and just like continuing to squeak out point leads every turn until you win. And I don't know. I guess the only thing is that like deception, at least in faction, doesn't feel like a liability to me as a restricted card, because even though good players will tend to play around it on turn 1, it's still live for other goofy stuff later in the game, as long as Mystique stays live. And so that makes it good enough for restricted for me. And also, like, I think, like, Vince, you and I, like, we played a game this week, and then we, like, shadowboxed the turn 1 a little bit. Or was that 2 weeks ago?
Deception
this week.
Deception, if you never play the card, can be worth its slot.
Yeah, exactly. I guess it's like, it was incredibly complicated and pretty brittle for you to figure out how to play turn 1 and both avoid getting deception and keep up with me on scenario. And that's basically how the faction works, is it's like this threat of disruption and displacement keeps people from like being able to just like grab stuff and keep up with me on points. So
my opinion on deception is essentially, if you put deception in your list, Mystique needs to be essentially always on the table.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. Yeah.
And since Mystique's always on the table for you, I have no complaints here. It's when we get to the point where you're like, you should be playing Mystique in Shield. And I'm like, well, she'd hit the table like charitably a quarter of the time. And I don't think that's worth the restricted slot.
You guys aren't ready for that yet, but your kids will love it. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to shift gears to...
Before you do that, I have to needle you a little bit because it's fun for me and brings me great joy. Bots gave me this idea when he was talking about, like, the Mystique leadership, right? It's hard to quantify the value of it. It's hard to verbally explain. It would be really nice if someone here had, like, a video series where they recorded games they played at game night and then put that up on YouTube, maybe with some commentary on top, so that people could see bots playing this in action and see all the things the leadership's doing and the benefit it brings. I just think that'd be a great idea for something that you could think about doing, Vince.
You don't want me to read from our personal chat about how you were supposed to do this, but...
And I told you I would do it after LVO. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So after LVO, we're going to get this happening. No, I was actually going to shift gears, and I think the one thing we've missed in this list talking about is how often you airlift.
Dude, I was just about to talk about that. I'm so glad you brought that up. I literally, my second screen right now is Captain America because I wanted to make sure I had all of his rules right and stuff. But yeah, dude, I guess that's my secret tech, and it's not secret and not remarkable, but I'm excited about it anyway. If you were playing Brotherhood, you have to play Sam. Like, I was not joking when I said he's my third favorite Brotherhood model. You could airlift shit that's holding a fucking token. That's what we're trying to do here anyway. So, like, well, first of all, Sam is really good in a lot of my crises that I'm running because he pushes people off points without having to be anywhere fucking near them. And he ignores cover, so he's really, really, really annoying on Scoundrels, which is one of the scenarios that I love playing with this list because it's high points, it's fast scoring, and you can play Sam on it. And then, basically... Vince loves to say that he's a really good 5 threat, and like I
just think that's funny. I'm not the originator of that.
I think it. No, I know, and I do. Right, you're not the originator of it, and I think it's funny too. And I don't think he's literally 5 threat, but I do think in every game I play him, he's more than a 3 threat. That's for sure. Like he is always moving. He's like one of the safest people you can put an extract on in this team because he is always going to be a million miles from anybody scary. He often will push 2 to 3 models in a turn and move somebody else that's holding an extract. Like it's fucking crazy. And also, the Mystique leadership helps him. Like he picks up a token and still has charge live on turn 2, even if nobody touches him. So. Or has airlift live, or whatever. He has one of his superpowers live. So I just think he's sick, and I think you should try to play him as often as you can. And I play him way more than both of my other splashes. Which to be fair, those are both much higher points, 4 and 6. But I think people might be a little surprised by how frequently I play him compared to Rhino, just because I think everybody also thinks of Rhino as an amazing model. But Rhino's kind of hard to fit in, and Sam is a breeze to fit in pretty much every situation. So, yeah. pretty much it. The airlift is broken.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think Brotherhood is good. And when that's the last thing. And I don't know if this is true, because when I started playing Brotherhood, a bunch of people told me that they heard Brotherhood was bad, but the phrasing of that is very key. A bunch of people told me they heard that Brotherhood was bad. Nobody would cop to this opinion directly. Everyone was just like, "Oh, everybody else thinks Brotherhood is bad." I've never met these so-called Brotherhood haters. I don't know if they're real. Maybe they're in some Discord that I'm not a part of, or maybe in some part of the country that I'm not a part of, or maybe it's a British thing again. But I know it's not a British thing, because Connor Rooney knows that they're good too. We've talked about it.
It's a combination of three things, right?
Mm-hmm.
The first one that Ethan talked about, a lot of people want to play Mags and think that Mags is part of the Brotherhood plan. And Mags, more than most anyone else, got demolished by Release Malekith, right?
That's true.
He just got obliterated from orbit worse than maybe any other individual model in the game, right? And so there's a lot of recovery that needs to happen after that, right? And I think, so that's one of them. The second one, we talked about this earlier, people don't respect solo Mystique enough. Right. To a lot of people, Brotherhood is synonymous with a Magneto Mystique pair and not just Mystique doing her own thing. And then the third point I want to bring up is that even people who've been playing this game since it came out or for a very long time, like myself and Vince, right? People underestimate how many fucking things are in this game and just how deep your list of options are. Right. And that's just true. Like how much a new release or a change can bring up old stuff, right? Like you think you have a mental model of what someone can do or what a model can do, right? And then buffs to other things, nerf to other things can totally shift that, right? We probably won't go deep into this on this episode, but the fucking Vodka's Claw list is legitimately good, and Vince is going to have so much egg on his face, it's going to be fucking great. And that's like...
Whoa. I am as excited about you as you about that list. You do not get to be straw man me here. That list is legitimately exciting.
You put out a video earlier this week calling Claw one of the worst models in the game.
Earlier this week?
The internet thinks the meta has determined that Claw is one of the worst models.
I thought this was something you said like 4 months ago.
No, it's in the video he just put out with him on the couch. And also,
if I'm in a suit and tie, I'm in character. That's not me. Look at the thumbnail.
So at your wedding.
Exactly. Got married in character.
Anyway, Nate, I think there was a third reason.
I mean, that was the third reason, right? Is that just like the game's very big, the game's very deep. Small changes can make big impacts on like what is and isn't good. And so I think if you're not the type of person to routinely go back and pan for gold, you're going to miss out on stuff.
Yeah.
And just kind of... You heard Brotherhood was bad 8 months ago, and that'll stick in your head until somebody proves you wrong.
Yeah.
I actually think the Brotherhood is bad thing goes back a year. And it's because I think Mystique is legitimately not good in the 2022 Crisis pool.
Oh, sure.
Where not all extracts are live.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's what makes her good now. Is that, like, the Crisis change was a sea change in Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if tomorrow they got rid of Gamma, Demons, and Researcher, S.H.I.E.L.D. is a low-tier faction.
Yeah.
God,
instantly.
What a beautiful world.
Right? We'd all be so happy.
And similarly, if every extract went back to being like old Senators or old Ship, right? You can put Mystique in the trash.
A nightmare.
Yeah, exactly. I actually think the current Crisis set is very good. I have quibbles. I actually released a video about those quibbles. But
is that the one where you call Claw bad?
Yes, it is. This is that one. I don't think I call whatever. It's recorded, so maybe I should just shut it. Go look it up, guys, and find out what I said.
Let us know in the comments.
Yeah. Comment below. What did Vince say?
Yeah, I'm not going to rewatch it.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, I think Brotherhood's good, but probably most people I talk to would like agree that they probably are pretty good. And then if I play them against them, not that I'm like the best Brotherhood player in the world or anything, but I'm pretty happy with my play now. It took a bit, but I'm kind of grooving with the list. So when I play people, they definitely are like, I don't know why I thought Brotherhood was bad. But
well, I'm excited to see how well you do at LVO.
Yeah, me too. Not going to LVO, by the way. Sorry. So I won't be proving anything anytime soon, one way or the other. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Let's talk about Pat's Spider Foes list, where
Pat's here?
Is playing
Four
a leader that decapitated
yes. Four
Pat.
people is too many for a podcast to answer the people who ask why I don't talk. That's all. And I don't play this game.
That is, hold on. They can go back to our early episodes where it was just the three of us and still wonder why you don't talk.
Also important. The part where I don't have opinions about this game because I barely play it.
You played it?
What? I play it every Tuesday.
Ben, how many games you play this week?
Now?
I play 2 games every Tuesday. That's like more than like half of our listeners.
I don't know. It feels very different from the games I played when I like had opinions about Guild Ball, though. Like, either I show up and dice you, or I get clowned on by you, and then I play games against other random people that like I don't really learn anything from. Like, that's my life.
Weren't you on like a 5 or 6 game winning streak against Vince?
Oh, he was.
Okay.
And then I almost broke it, but then Alex wandered over and was like, Pat, the end game is so trivial here. And then Pat looked at it for a long time and then was like, oh, you're right, Alex. It is. And then Rhinoberied me for the second time.
His Rhinoberi was face up.
It was face up. But then I went, didn't you play Rhinoberi this turn? And Alex went, no, he didn't.
I didn't. Well, okay, if you said this turn, he didn't do it twice.
No, I just said, didn't you play Rhinoberi? And Alex very confidently, having not watched the whole game, went, no, he didn't.
Well, I don't remember.
And then Alex was like, and then Pat was like, yeah, I don't think I did. And I was like, must be true. Both my friends say it's.
So, Vince, is this another game we get to put in the column of you losing because you trust your opponents to know what's going on?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm like, this is like a thing. I played a TTS game the other day, and I at least felt better when I sent you the lists that were played, but like he wasn't in affiliation at all. And I didn't notice until I was like, oh, I just got dunked on this turn. If he plays all according to plan, I'm in trouble. Let's count how much all according to plan power he has. Hang on. Only Kingpin is the only model on the table that can play all according to plan power. Hang on.
So I'm a professional at like accidentally playing out of affiliation lists, but I've never gone that far. Okay.
He didn't actually go that far. I had killed Shadowland. I had KO'd Shadowlands Daredevil. So those were his 2. And then he thought Lizard was in, or had thought Lizard was going to be another model that was in affiliation. And, oh boy.
Counting to half of your models is hard.
Counting to more than half is hard.
Thing. I just need you to...
Easy.
Yeah, I was saying counting to half is easy.
That's the thing I always do.
Nate, at LVO, just... Yeah. After you set up and draw your things around, swing by my table and make sure my opponent's not cheating their fucking face off. Because apparently, I am just the most trusting person in all of MCP.
Another great line to like put atop a picture of the Baron or whatever. Anyway,
it happened to me a bunch. It happened to me at Adepticon in 2022.
I know. I'm very sorry. They're all cheaters, especially Pat.
Yeah.
Anyway, Pat. Tell us about your Spider Foes list.
Well, it started as Nate's Spider Foes list that I made him make me. And then I played that for a while and was really mad about Venom and not enjoying the part where I had to play Spider Foes. I had 5 Spider Foes in the list at that point. And then I stopped playing Spider Foes for a while and stole Curtis's Hellfire list from Second Wind. That I cheated some with. And it was a lot of this...
How do you cheat
well,
with
in my first game, I didn't really read the leadership, so I just like got bonus power for her too.
Oh, okay.
It goes off every turn, right?
Oh yeah. But there were a lot of I don't know. I was not enjoying the like leadership decision making process of Hellfire very much. But I took some then I went back to Spider Foes and took some inspiration from that Hellfire list and imported some of the like bodyguard models to my Spider Foes list, and then cut them all because I was never playing them. And I had a new category of problem. Well, two big problems, really. One, Alex bots. Two, I guess Shane did it to me too. So, Brotherhood. And I also had problems being in affiliation because I didn't want to play Mysterio because despite Vince's best efforts, I don't particularly like Mysterio.
Coolest fucking model in the game. You're wrong.
Yeah,
That's
sorry,
fine.
you just
He can be cool and I cannot like him.
No.
You had one game where you were like, oh, and then he gets to do this, and you were just like having a great time. There was one game where you were like, Mysterio's doing interesting stuff.
We also played
here.
a game where I had to play Mysterio and was just like mad about it the entire time. So the real problem was 19 and 20, which wasn't great because as we'll get to, I'm playing Scoundrels, which you'll note is at 20. And that is the only question mark left in my list for LVO specifically, is if I stick with Scoundrels or not. I probably will, but I'm slightly undecided because I brought in Juggernaut to be the man to let me play 5 models instead of 6 at 20. And to sort of make me slightly less sad in the Brotherhood situation, even though I don't know if that's panned out. And I'm a few games into that, and it feels okay. And I can secure a painted Juggernaut, so one less model to paint for LVO. Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's huge.
So, the list. I'm playing Dr. October, Black Cat, Lizard, Rhino, Juggernaut, Mysterio, Pyro, Crimson Dynamo, Beta Ray Bill, and Black Widow, despite Cerebro's best efforts to continue cutting those last 2 models. And then tactics. This is a robbery. The Grand Illusion. Sinister Traps, Sacrifice, Mission Objective, Fallback, Brace for Impact, Do You Know Who I Am, Pyrotechnics, and Eyes on the Prize. And then, which one?
You can tell this is a good... Oh, sorry, go ahead. I was just going to say, you can tell this is a good list because it follows the Magic Nick thought rules of Marvel, which is that you have to have Pyro and Rhino in
Because it's part of the podcast.
I'm not...
What? Why? Me and Magic Nick, our truth will not be fucking censored or...
Oh, wait. I edit
Yeah.
the podcast now. Never mind.
Wait, you edit the podcast?
We're thinking
For
about
YouTube
it.
now.
Is that true?
I'm very excited.
Holy shit. Magic Nick, watch out. Vince is going to remove every reference to you from our podcast.
And then secures, I have 2 pay-to-flips in Portals and Portals and Madman, and then Scoundrels. And then extracts, I have Paranoia, Cubes, and Spider Infected. So to sort of circle back to the earlier discussion about not to go full into you have to play a skew now, but this is okay, one, I don't think this list is great in the meta. Don't really care. Not going to win LVO.
He's winning LVO.
So much confidence.
So it's like the scenario skew that is not uniquely good at any scenario element. It's like a skew in the scenario direction. Like if I have to fight you on demons, I'm just gonna scoop. But also it doesn't have an insane X-Men-esque or Brotherhood-esque turn 1 thing. It's just sort of generically better at scenario than a mid-range team is. Which is the thing that hasn't felt great about it when I'm playing against an actually sharp skew. But other than that, it feels pretty good.
So, how do I put this? I think it's interesting you mentioned that the list doesn't feel incredibly good at any one specific type of scenario, and it's just good at scenario. Because that's almost identical to what Bot said about his own list.
I don't think that's... I think that is true of his list also, but his list also has the incredibly sharp Senators thing.
Sure.
And I think probably a much stronger turn 1.
Yes,
I mean, the thing
So
you
I
just
was
said
gonna-
about turn 1 is definitely true.
I was going to come back to that turn 1 thing. Because, yes, I agree the weakness of the Spider Foes list is the turn 1. But in my mind, I don't think that's a problem that prevents them from being competitive, because I think it's exactly as true about Hellfire Club. And most people will agree that Hellfire Club is competitive. Like, where you put them on the tier list can vary, that's fine, but nobody thinks like the Hellfire stuff doing the same idea is bad. And they also have 0 turn 1 shenanigans, right? They're right there with you, where their turn 2s onwards get exciting and cool, but the turn 1 they're not doing anything crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's true in practice.
I think the fact that you have Sinister Traps is pretty annoying for Brotherhood. Like, I really do think that it, like, stuffs the perfect versions of my turn 1s. And I don't know, I think I've played against foes 3 times, and I'm like 2-1, maybe? But it has felt, like, closer than I expected it to pretty much every time. So, like, I think they're at least competitive in that way, and they definitely feel similar to Hellfire, where they're like, you're playing them, and it's like they're not doing anything super super crazy, but also they have like way more power than you're expecting, and they get around some stuff that you're trying to do, and they're playing really solid models. So I don't know.
Yeah, my scorching hot take is the two-part of, I don't think Hellfire is as good as most people seem to think it is, and I think especially on the scenarios they're both good at, that the foes list is doing that same idea better. I think the one advantage Hellfire has is, like, I do understand that this foes list has a problem on like the brawls on demons. Like, I do think that is a tough uphill battle, and I think Hellfire is a little better when you get stuck on the bad crises. But when you're on the medium to good crises, I think the Doc Ock 2 lists are better than the Hellfire lists. That's my scorcher for today.
That seems totally plausible to me. Like, in the Hellfire games I did play, occasionally, like, I just ended up with a bunch of power on Emma, and she just destroyed 2 models with a spender. So yeah, I can believe that.
Also, I don't remember if the scenario situation was different. Like, you had different scenarios when we most recently played, but looking at this list of scenarios, your secures are pretty annoying, and would be much more annoying if you dropped Scoundrels for me. Like, if you won priority and took me to a pay to flip, I think that would be pretty obnoxious for Brotherhood. I'm not saying you should drop Scoundrels just because of Brotherhood, especially because I'm not even going to be at LVO, and I don't know whether you're going to play against Brotherhood, but like, so if we just played these lists, I would be pretty mad if I got taken to pay to flips by you.
I agree that I think I would be looking at a third pay to flip there. I think there's a debate about Asgard, but I think if I remove Asgard from my conversation for just a brief moment, I think the Spider Foes are the best pay to flip team, and I'm very confident they're better at pay to flips than X-Men now.
Vince is stunned.
Yeah, Vince is losing his mind.
You're wrong. Like, you're just mad that, like,
no, I'm not.
They're a worse, like, I think that X-Men are probably worse than Spider Foes, but not on pay to flips. Like, get out of town.
Okay, I believe it. Vodka believes it even harder than I do. So he's had a lot of problems dealing with Spider Foes trying to play X-Men. It's a problem. There's like maybe an argument against like the wider field. Do X-Men have more winning matchups on pay to flips than foes? But if we get pay to flips and I'm playing foes, I think they're advantaged. Not like a crazy amount, but I think they're advantaged.
I think that foes are better at the wider I think they're good at the wide pay to flips. Like, I don't want to play them on meteors. Sword, I think, is a little bit dicey.
Yeah, I wouldn't be playing Sword here. But I think they're the best Spider Portals team now.
I don't know. So, like, the thing when you compare them to X-Men is they don't have the built-in compression as much as X-Men do. They have it some, but like it's not as trivial to get to the points as it is for X-Men.
I don't think there's a phrase that makes me madder these days than people talking about all the built-in compression that X-Men have. It is.
I mean, their leadership is compression.
Yes, It's compression that now costs power, which makes it harder to use on pay to flips. Right?
I mean, like all compression. Like all compression costs power, except for
oh,
Logan's
really? Rhino's got to pay
and
power
Rhinos.
to teleport with his attacks? That's a new thing I haven't seen them add. People overstate the amount of action compression in X-Men because they were floundering for a way to explain why X-Men are good at pay-to-flips, when the real reason is that we were the only people playing pay-to-flips. So the pilots knew what they were doing. It was not about the models.
Sure, you can have a wrong opinion. That's fine.
That seems like a crazy take for having a card that makes it free to flip on turn 1.
Yeah,
I guess, okay, if you want to argue that it's not about the models, then, like, yeah, I guess you got me. It's not about the models.
Checkmate.
Look, first class is good, right? And it helps make X-Men good at pay-to-flips. I agree. Your leadership does a lot more to give you free power to interact more often than first class does.
I think that is true sometimes, but I think it is getting like starkly less true as people play against spider foes more than like twice. And this, go ahead.
I mean, first class is generally like 3 free power. You're gonna get more than 3 power. To
But
your
it's also my goddamn leadership, and you still have yours.
and it's also about having it on demand.
I understand.
I do think that playing against spider foes, as I've done it a couple more times, it's shocking how little I feel the need to actually
So that's
attack.
the thing, is that like...
Yeah.
And to be clear, I'm playing a scenario team, so obviously like an attrition team needs to attack,
Well,
so very different situation. But
yeah, but I think even the attrition teams that like need to attack should allocate their attacks differently into spider foes than they do into an average list. And
True,
I
definitely.
think early on people did not do that, and they're getting better at that. So I don't know. I don't know how long this is going to last. I think it'll be kind of like Kingpin, just in a different way.
Yeah, I do kind of put them in the same class of like, I think they are probably tied for the third best, like crisis team behind Web's #1, Brotherhood #2, and then like a 3-way tie between KP, Hellfire, and
That makes sense to me.
foes.
I think foes are better than Kingpin and Hellfire. I would separate that out because, like, I agree. Doc Ock benefits when your opponent doesn't know how to allocate their attacks and how to attack you, but like they can't not attack you and win the game. You will have models holding stuff that they will need to get that stuff off of you, or they lose.
The problem has like that is true when I win priority and there's a center extract. That is has not felt like the case when I lose priority in like a decent number of games. So, well,
it makes sense to me that it feels better when you win prio. Yes, I do. Like, you have steals, you have sinister traps, you have ways to fight back from behind when you're not the one with prio. I also think I am stealing more content from across the Bifrost, but they just did a Doc Ock episode where TT
These aren't your original ideas, Nate?
No, never. I save those only for me.
Okay.
He made a very good argument for This Is Our Day as a way to help out on games where you're losing prio into other scenario teams, and it was a very convincing argument.
I have to go
Pat
look
now
up.
has to go look up This Is Our Day.
So does Alex.
I love the card This Is Our Day. I am not it does not belong here. That card is not good enough.
I think it is. So
it's not good if they're crushing you, and it's not good if you're winning.
So you don't play it in either of those situations, right? The time you
but
play
you have
this
to
card,
know that situation.
No, hold on.
Turn one,
Shut up.
on turn 0.
Shut up. Shut up. Here's the time you play that, all right? If you were playing against like Brotherhood or Web Warriors, right? Another scenario team, and you end up on, let's say, cubes, and they have prio, right? You know they're going to take the middle cube and back up, and there's very little you can do to stop that. Right? And you know that generally the rest of the points are going to shake out as you'd expect, where you're going to get your 2 cubes, they'll get their 2 cubes, you get your secures, they get their secures, right? And you're going to go into round 2 down a single point.
Okay. So you play it on turn 2 then?
You play it on turn 2 or turn 3 as a way to make sure...
Play it on turn 2.
What?
Card's trash on turn 2.
No, it's not. It's a juiced up
don't
mission
steal from you.
objective. Is mission objective a good card, Vince?
Yeah, and a mission objective would be a better card here on turn 2.
But what if you could have 2? What if you could have a mission objective that was way more generous on the positioning requirements on how to use it? That cost you 0 power to use.
Okay, so if you play This Is Our Day on turn 2,
Yes.
the Webs players don't have their steals online.
Okay.
They don't
Well,
make you drop the
depends what
thing.
steals
The
they
card
have,
doesn't
but
do
yes.
anything.
Okay, you play on turn 3 then.
Okay, are you still losing on turn 3?
By like a point, sure. Maybe you're down 2 points. Oh no.
So
You
like,
play it the
this is-
turn you expect to get your stuff stolen.
So my issue with this card is you have to like call your shot.
Okay.
And you have to call your shot twice. You have to call it on. You'd be like, not only on turn 0, you have to be like, this situation's gonna come up.
Yes.
And then
That's
you have
not
to
hard
pick
to
the
do.
and then you have to pick the correct turn to play it, where they're going to try to take your stuff, and that playing the card both makes them either still try to take your stuff, or if they choose not to take your stuff, they lose.
Well, they don't have to
Right?
lose.
I
it
think the
just has to
needle
be
is
bad for
incredibly
them.
hard to thread.
I think you were expecting this card to win you the game, and that's not what it's here to do. It's not hard to know which turn your opponent's going to try to steal a bunch of shit. You're acting like that requires some arcane knowledge to figure out. It fucking doesn't, man. It's going to be turn 2 or turn 3. You got a 50-50 shot of figuring out when to play this card. You will be fine, right? And you don't need... If this card saves one objective from getting Miles or Spider-Woman out of you, that's worth a card slot. And it's not asking a lot of this card to stop one Venom Blast.
I think you should be playing mission objective.
Play
The card's
both.
Easier to play, and it's like it's more consistent. And
Play both. Why do you have to pick? Like, scenario versus scenario teams are so much about who controls the extracts, right? Like, that's all Web Warriors are doing these days, is controlling extracts, bringing a bunch of steals. That's how the scenario matchups go. Why would you not want a second mission objective into that matchup? That costs you 0 power to use and has much easier positioning requirements.
it's like I'm arguing against myself 2 months ago from before I started trying to play the card.
Okay, you did it wrong then. That's fine.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know.
What do the other 2 people think about this argument?
It's pretty.
It's so coolly designed. The card is very cool.
I just asked
think
the
it's-
other 2 people for their opinion, Vince.
Okay.
Unfortunately,
I was
I
vamping, not allowed.
sort of think I agree with Vince. I don't. Well, I'm not totally sure. It's like, yeah, I'm trying to picture it from the Brotherhood perspective because I don't. It's harder for me to picture like exactly how Web Warriors games go, but it's pretty obvious, I would say, when pyrotechnics is going to happen. I think it's less obvious to guess when robbery is going to happen if I'm playing Rhino. I think that this card is good. I don't know. The tough thing is that I think this card is worth a slot for Pat if it counters pyrotechnics. Like if it in the matchup, if it just I play pyrotechnics and he retains control of the extract I was trying to steal. Like I think that's probably good enough. But 2 things. One, Spider-Foes is the worst target for pyrotechnics already because of the leadership.
Yeah.
It's like actually pretty difficult to use pyrotechnics against Spider-Foes where it's like trivial in every other matchup. And then 2, I don't know if you do guess it correctly. Like, it's not really a guess, but if you correctly play it on the turn that pyrotechnics is happening, I'm not actually totally convinced it would stop me from getting that extract because of Asteroid M. Because the way I usually play against other scenario teams with pyro, we're using pyrotechnics, is I wait a turn, so it's usually turn 3 or later. It's not turn 2, and I wait until Pyro has enough to where he can asteroid M to within 2 of a target, and then pyrotechnics, and then walk away twice. So, or walk away once if he had to attack, but walk away twice ideally. So, in that circumstance, even if they drop the thing 3 away, he still picks it up and then walks once, which is worse. It has made it worse.
He
for
does
me,
not.
definitely.
He's walking twice to get to
he
range
has to walk
3.
twice.
Like if they put it as far away from Pyro,
If he's base contact, he can't get there.
Okay. Well,
so it's a double walk for you to come get it. And
well,
he
I'm glad that
where
I
you're
talked
going.
about this then, because probably I haven't played against the card. I'm glad we talked about this because probably that would change. Like I would try to asteroid M past them basically, but like anyway, yeah. So maybe I don't know. Maybe making Pyro be in the middle of fucking nowhere holding the extract is enough to justify this card's existence. But I think that's the most likely outcome into me. So I don't know. I guess I'm not totally sure if that's worth a card slot. But it being free is very nice. I mean, that's definitely...
Yeah, I mean, like...
There's no question about that.
The way the card is written makes you dream of, like, these wide game-swinging plays, right?
Yeah, where it affects, like, 3 drops plus an extra...
And you get some
days or
damage. Like,
whatever.
all this crazy stuff can happen. You have these big dreams.
Right.
And, like, the dreams shouldn't happen. But I think just thinking of it as a juiced mission objective with upside that is harder to play than mission objective is a more realistic outlook on what you should expect from this card, and I think is good enough to help out in an area where I think that Spider Foes could use a little bit of help, right? Like if the scenario on scenario matchups weren't a problem for Pat, then I'd say like, okay, you probably don't need this card. Right, because it's not so strong that I'd play it regardless. But if you feel like that is a pain point, I think you'd be crazy not to try juiced up mission objective to see if that helps.
So which of these cards would you drop for?
Yeah,
his
exactly.
10 tactics? Because I'm having trouble deciding other than the Grand Illusion, which I think is a gimmick. But
I mean, I kind of do too, for what it's worth. But
I mean, that doesn't mean it's bad necessarily. But and to be fair, I think you're trading a gimmick for a different gimmick. But I might like this other gimmick more. I'm not sure.
yeah, I guess like I feel like if I'm playing Mysterio, I'm already on tilt, and I don't know that I'll play the Grand Illusion well.
That's a great justification.
Yeah, I think the 3 cards out of his 10 that could be on the bubble for this are the Grand Illusion, Sinister Traps, and Mission Objective.
You can't drop
No.
Sinister Traps.
It's definitely not
And
traps.
It's definitely not Traps, and it's definitely not Mission Objective.
Yeah, and I don't think...
worse
I think
Mission Objective.
Yeah, I think if you're probably playing this card in a circumstance where you're playing both it and Mission Objective. Like that, maybe that is actually good enough that it's a real problem for me. I think I'd have to play against it. Like if he had both this is our day, and Mission Objective, maybe that is like sufficiently annoying for me. I don't know.
I don't think you ever get a Pyrotechnics on more than one model ever into that list.
Oh yeah, definitely not. I mean, that's
And I'm
the
not sure you
hardest
can
part
play the
about
card
that
or
list.
Pyro into him.
I might. I think I still play Pyro, but I don't think I play Pyrotechnics. Or I'm thinking about not playing Pyrotechnics next time I play against Spider Foes. But the thing about the leadership in Pyro is that you basically just if you either want to attack twice and get fire on both, or just not attack at all. Because if you get fire on both, then you still get the fire. So.
What do you mean you get fire on both?
Both attacks. A wild on both attacks.
Oh, okay. So you attack him the one time, you hit the wild, it jumps to another guy, he shakes it off the front guy.
Yeah.
First attack. Right, you
And
shoot
then
him again, you hit the wild again.
Or you just shoot the second guy if he's in range, because then it's automatically,
Then it's automatically
passing fire.
back. Okay.
And then you never attack either of those models again. Like you leave fire on them and never
That's
give them an
precisely
opportunity
what
to
happened
shake
in our
again.
game.
But
It was not tilting at all.
yeah. I mean, that's like the only way around it. It's
Maybe it works well enough.
But anyway, what we're talking about is not
Yeah.
whether I should play Pyro. It's this card.
I would love to give Nate some homework of playing some Spider Foes and trying to make this card work, because I love this card. Like, I can't begin to explain like how much I actually really like the idea of this card, the design of this card.
Okay.
And I've played it like at least 5 times, and I have really struggled to ever get value out of it.
Well, as always, instead of doing my own homework, I'm just going to copy someone else's work. Go listen to the Across the Bifrost episode when it comes out.
I have listened to the Across the Bifrost thing.
Listen to it again.
Unconvinced.
So just to be clear, because I don't play any actual steals, I play like fake steals.
Yeah.
Robbery and pyrotechnics. This does go into effect against Black Cat or no?
No. Doesn't work against Black Cat.
So it works against Miles, but it doesn't work against Black Cat.
Yeah,
right?
it works against dropping the objective. So it works against Miles.
I wasn't sure if transferring an objective counts as dropping it or something.
No. It is better into pyrotechnics than mission objective, because pyrotechnics you can pick the order that you do things, right? So you can like push them out of mission objective range and then make them drop it, right? That's how that works.
Yes, yeah, you can.
Yeah. Like way better into pyrotechnics, but also I think the leadership protects you enough from pyrotechnics that like if that's the only reason for this card to exist, that's not enough of a reason.
It's not.
I do think this card is like mildly interesting in any faction that might splash Ock, but
is that a thing?
I thought really hard about putting 3-threat Doc Ock into my roster so I could play this card and be less mad about Web Warriors.
Okay, that I can believe. Splashing 4 seems, yeah.
I would never splash the 4-threat. No.
What's the other steal in Web Warriors that this does work against? It works on Miles and it works on
Spider-Woman has the same.
Spider-Woman, right? Right. Yeah.
Yeah, they have 3 steals in faction.
The only things it doesn't work on is like Black Cat, Enchantress, and Quicksilver, right? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
All
so actually, that maybe that means I should be playing.
Damn it!
Replace Pyro with Quicksilver against these guys. Whatever.
Then you have to attack me.
Probably.
Sinister 6.
I mean, unless you end up with like a civilian one, and then your card doesn't work.
Yeah. One of these days, I'm gonna get myself with that.
Probably in events. Do it in events. He'll never check.
I won't. I don't do it. Or worst case scenario, I'll check on turn 2 and have to call a judge.
Yeah.
Which is really my problem. Is like all of those issues I've had. If I've checked on turn 1, our games.
Yeah. No problem.
Yeah. No problems at all. Like.
Yeah.
Okay. Pitt, what else is going on with this list? So you really don't like Mysterio and the Grand Illusion?
Enough. I really don't like short move. So like, okay, I was having a bad time in CS with short move medium base. Short move small base sucks.
Yeah, I do think that is one of the things that I've felt playing against Pat in this lineup. Like I was saying that the Sinister Six people are annoying, and they definitely are. But one thing that I feel like I'm the landed gentry and he's a peasant is when any of my models have to move from one secure to a different secure, because I'm usually playing 2 long moves and Juggernaut, and he is playing none. Although he's playing Juggernaut now, so good for him.
I mean, my experience with this list has been a little weird in that I think I've won priority twice total. So I've played 1 pay-to-play. I want to say.
That is weird.
Yeah.
So that'll be great for LVO. I'll be reading my own scenarios to find out what they do. I don't know. I'm having an okay time. There's other models in here that like are theoretically to deal with Vince, Crimson Dynamo, but I'm not really convinced that it does enough. So I am sort of still just hoping to dodge that problem, or like the problem being a central brawl on an E. And I guess to some degree Fisk, but
I'm hoping to dodge you too, buddy.
I feel like you do enough against that, having both Bill and Dynamo. Although sometimes I guess there are some point values where you can't take both, right? But
yeah, a lot. Most of them.
9.
Most of them, really?
18 plus used to be.
Yeah.
4, 3. Wait. 10. Yeah, it would have to be 18 plus. Yeah, okay, that is rough. But I mean, on demons, that's Bill Dynamo is sick.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
Bill's immune to incinerate. Another way in which Pyro is cucked.
True.
You could have Jim Hammond. I'll take Pyro, dude.
Did you see my shield, my forward thinking, progressive, inspirational shield list a couple days ago? It has Mystique. It has Jim Hammond, who, as of right now, I know his alias.
I must have missed it, or I erased it from my brain after I saw it. But the most important part of this entire Spider-Foes talk is that Pat unknowingly called
I did it intentionally.
Dr. Octopus Dr. October.
Yeah.
Yeah, he calls him Dr. October. That's great. It's a great name.
It's like
great.
Clawvember or
If you-
whatever the fuck
if
I
you
would
come
call it if I
to
was playing
our-
Claw.
If you come to our Tuesday game night at the Dice Dojo in Chicago, Illinois, you probably could listen to us for 15 minutes and not realize we're talking about Marvel.
So Dr. October shoots Gunboy.
Yep. Mr. Eek plays
I
Deception.
guess
And Juggerno slides.
the only other thing that has occurred to me in playing this is how much worse Black Cat feels than in Hellfire. Because it feels like the net Black Cat power is like 1 if my opponent's playing well. And it's like, she got dazed and now she has 10 power on the backside, not 9. And that, like, I never, unless, I get my opponent's Infinity or something, my Black Cat is, like, never online without having been either ignored and it's turn 3 or dazed already. Because I was, like,
Yeah.
behind and forced to throw her at my opponent.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Pat does not have the Web Warriors Black Cat experience. It's like kind of incredible. I've seen his Black Cat one shot a bunch of times,
Yes.
It's rough.
Like, get one shot? Yeah.
which is like the odds of it are so low. It's
Shouldn't be
not even
happening.
funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree it's not particularly funny.
Yeah.
I also just haven't played her as much, I guess, because I'm sort of locked into the 3 foes models that aren't Mysterio. And then, I don't know, maybe it's just been points or whatever, but
Shouldn't she be
That's what I'm
lore-wise a
saying.
Spider-Foe?
then I can throw Mysterio in the trash.
Pat and I are lore experts, and we are asking the question, why isn't Black Cat a Spider-Foe?
Please just give
I'm
Mysterio
not gonna
back.
throw
Don't throw him in the trash.
The trash that is Vince's KR fund.
Yeah, I do think that as much as I am high on Oct 2 as being a good and competitive list, he probably more than anything else I can think of that I consider a good list is really pushing at the constraints of his own faction. Right? Like in Vince's Shield list, there are good models in his affiliation he is not playing. Right? In Brotherhood, there are good models that Bots is not playing. Right, Zach's Guardians list, same thing. Right, a lot of the good rosters right now have in-affiliation models that they'd be happy to play and can't. Right, and like if we had to take these to affiliation battle, Vince stoked, Bots pretty stoked. You the saddest
That
you've
was
ever been.
what I was thinking about. As I was like, do I want to pay $20 to threaten to play affiliation battle at Adepticon, and have to, I don't know, go back and play Asgard or something? Because it's like the only thing that I wouldn't want to kill myself playing and have some painted models for.
Nah, we'll get you a claw and we'll
Yeah!
I'll play
Yeah.
4
We'll play you
liter
some,
CS. It's sick.
Play VOD Clawminal Syndicate. I need to really think about how to say that.
I did.
but I'm dedicated
I
to
did have
Claw.
a game
What's
against
that?
the local where I got blown out by Claw, so that was fun. I
Claw's
did
good.
refuse to read the card beforehand.
Claw's
but,
good.
You know,
That'll do it.
He's kind of a gotcha model. He's like, please read
yeah,
me.
it was interesting. I don't know. Nobody else plays Spider-Foes, so I can get another
Cool.
Best in Faction token at LVO by not making the Invitational.
Hell yeah. Wouldn't it be so sick if you got the top Spider-Foes
That sounds hard to do.
That'd be
I'm sure people are
I don't know. Do other people play it? I mean, I've played against a
was
Spider-Foes
it?
that wasn't you. But don't remember.
exciting. Cool.
There's some Italian guy who's got a shit ton of Spider-Foes points.
See?
Oh, Jesus.
That's a lot of
627?
Yo, Mamma Mia.
That's
627?
That's a lot.
Mamma Mia.
I'm not getting that many points. Sad to say.
No, you're not. Yeah, that's like one of the highest there is.
Oh yeah, he's got like 50 points on the next closest.
Yeah, he has that one
Dang.
locked in.
It's 20 points higher than Shield.
All right, well, I was about to say something in Italian, but my Italian isn't quite there yet. But speaking of talking in a language we don't understand and then laughing, let's play Back in the Box.
Oh, back of the box, Pat. I bet you thought we weren't going to do this. All right. So let's see if... Actually, you know what? I've got a new idea here. All right, Alex.
Yeah.
Why don't you explain how back of the box works?
I think we actually did this once before, but I'm happy to do it again. So Back in the Box is a game show invented by the guy from Saw. And in Back in the Box, Pat plays, and he has to guess what AMG Marvel Crisis Protocol box the description that he hears comes from. The trick here is that the description has all like specific nouns and descriptors blacked out, so that he has to guess just from context clues and knowing the names of characters in the game, two things he is an expert at. He gets 4 points if he guesses it after the first paragraph, 3 points if he guesses it after the second paragraph, 2 points if he guesses it after the second paragraph and asks one of us for help. Is that the next one? Is that the order? I always forget.
Sure.
And then 1 point if he goes through those, still doesn't know, and answers a competitive Valorant trivia question. He needs 8 points to win. And yeah, Vince, our host, take it away.
Okay. Born into privilege, Blank's life was forever changed when his parents were killed by a family friend. Fueled by a desire for revenge, Blank traveled to the mystical city of Blank. There, he trained under Blank, the Blank, who turned him into a living weapon. As a final test, Blank challenged the Blank and defeated him, plunging his Blank into the Blank's molten heart. Blank became the bearer of the Blank. After avenging his parents, Blank turned his life into serving others, becoming inseparable friends with Blank as a Blank, and a blank for Blank.
Okay.
I love the idea that Joe Chill is a family friend of Thomas and Martha Wayne.
Family friend that they let fall into poverty.
I don't really know anything about Batman, except that his parents
Like you do when you're rich.
So, this is a weird one because I thought halfway through, I think this is the Iron Fist, and then I half remember a back of the box where somebody told me he's a lawyer or something. So I might have hallucinated that.
Yeah.
But then you did come close to saying Heroes for Hire, but it might also be bait. But I like bait, so...
What? Me bait you? No
or
way.
It could be villain for vilifying. I don't know. I need points, so I'm going to say that is the Iron Fist. Let's go.
Correct. This is the Iron Fist. I waffled so hard on whether to blank the 4.
Yeah.
I probably still would have gone for it if you hadn't said that, but only because you said molten.
I don't know
He's
why.
got like molten fire hand plunge fist.
Yep.
That's what the back of the box says.
Also,
Okay.
important,
Not a
not a lawyer.
Not a lawyer. Yeah, like not a lawyer at all.
He's a billionaire.
Who's a lawyer?
He's super rich.
Daredevil?
She-Hulk. And
Okay.
Daredevil.
Daredevil, yeah. Daredevil's a
Anyone in a
lawyer.
There are
bodysuit
two
is the same
lawyers.
to me. Oh,
His show has a lot of lawyer meetings, though, but also his show is bad.
I think I'm going to paint my Dr.
All right.
Octopus like a SHIELD agent, also, for what it's worth.
Hell yeah.
It's like we talked a bunch about repainting the commandos to
Yeah.
look like the
Is that
SHIELD
Marvel did that?
agents.
Oh, sure.
I hate your faction visually so much.
It's the
Yeah, I'm
ugliest
not the
fucking
biggest
thing.
fan
It's so
either, to
funny.
be honest.
Oh, I don't really. I mean, it is ugly, but I actually mostly just meant clarity. It's like I don't know what the fuck I'm fighting against.
Well, it's
I know who
both,
Iron
yeah.
Man is because he's red.
All right. How many points does Pat have? Alexander Bartholomew Box.
4.
4.
A
Nice.
fuck huge 4.
He is halfway there.
Yeah.
All right. Blank is blank, a dashing scoundrel with the blank power to accelerate the molecular energy of an object, transforming mundane items into kinetically charged explosives. Raised by a gang of blank street thieves, Blank is a master thief and former member of the Thieves Guild. Forced into the employ of the Blank, Blank had an unwitting hand in the destruction of the Blank. Racked by guilt, his life of wandering ended when he met Blank, and finding him a new family as one of the Blank. Now fighting to protect others, he dishes out punishment with his bow staff and trademarked Blank. With his kinetic enhancement, Blank always has the winning Blank.
You're making this, I think, too easy.
I mean, we are running out of...
This one is like 2 words away from me just being like, fuck it, I don't know, man, Magneto. Except that I'm... Go ahead.
You know, sorry, but just like for the first time ever, I actually thought you were too generous with this one. Normally, I'm complaining.
Yeah,
I
maybe.
agree.
It has like 15 or 16 blanks.
I
needed more.
I think this is
Yeah, I guess so.
the model that you convinced me to buy and I've never assembled to play in Criminal Syndicate named Gambit.
Holy shit.
This is correct. This is Gambit.
How did you convince him to play Gambit in
Okay,
CS?
so it went something like this.
To fuck with Shield. You play Dark Past in CS into Shield, and it
And
dunks
he
Shield.
pitched it as a cosplay I could do for big events.
That's true. You could.
I mean, Pat loves fingerless gloves. I mean, like, listeners, you don't really know, but like, he has an intense passion
Yes.
for fingerless gloves.
Wait, why would they play Dark Past?
Yes, but
Don't
2
they have
turns.
Shadow Organization?
Well,
play
you
both.
play Dark Past on turn 1, and you play Shadow Org on turn 2, and you don't get shot by Shield at all until turn 3.
That's exactly what happened to me.
Exactly. Like,
I was like, that's kind of cool. And, you know, maybe I could use a rogue someday.
I still think that's kind of cool. Okay, like, get off my back.
I will.
You should have blanked Bowstaff. For
You're
sure.
right. I should have blanked bow staff.
And
That
also,
didn't
I
help
think
at
I
all.
bet that's why I
yeah.
gave it away.
Oh, no, I think Thieves Guild is a
know.
misnomer, though. Like,
I
there's a bunch of thieves in the game, and I don't know if Pat
Yeah, he's
would
not
know
even
it
a
was
criminal.
Gambit.
I have a union card. Yeah.
I don't think that would help Pat, but I still would have blanked it.
Okay.
I think you could have
All
left
right.
staff and I probably still would have guessed Gambit, but the winning blank was also
Yeah, if you name an object they're holding, Pat will get that. That's like the one
Okay.
thing he's very good at. is
All right.
knowing The things on the actual.
My
models
bad.
that
So you
he's
think
seen.
so, Pat? You wouldn't have got it if I had blanked bow
I might
staff.
have still gotten it from the winning blank. There's not a lot of other like things that are other than hand.
Yeah, I waffled on that one too.
But if you had said blanking blank and gotten rid of staff, I probably would have just left the podcast.
Well, I'm glad we didn't do that. All right. Well, you've already won, but here
Yeah,
we
we're
go
going to the Valorant
anyway.
trivia question this time.
Blank was a Blank was a fringe researcher in the field of applied blank. When his latest project required the rare blank to complete, he rallied a group of mercenaries and attacked Blank to get it. His surprise assault was successful, but at great cost. Blank was mortally wounded. In a last-ditch effort, he turned his new weapon upon himself. His dying body was warped, and he now exists as a sentient Blank. Impossible to kill and unbearable to listen to, Blank's arrival is always an ill omen.
Man, that feels like it could have described a lot of people. Why is everyone maimed and then becomes a villain? Or some of them become Agent Venom.
Pat, if I get maimed, I am going to become a villain. Like, I'm just going to be awful to hang out
Waiting
with.
for it.
Well, yeah.
He's ready. He's got his speech and everything.
He's got his outfit.
Who are you
going to
try and heist for their blank? I don't know who this is.
Aw.
All right. You want paragraph 2 then?
No 12 points, no royal road, no triple crown, etc.
The blank 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 has long disagreed with the leadership of blank, the blank. Against direct orders, he revived an ancient magic hidden in the heart of the region's legendary blank. Intent on taking blank for himself, blank staged a coup with his newfound power. Despite the ill-fated attempt, the blank remains a powerful influence in blank's politics, sometimes with the blank and sometimes against him. One might question blank's motives, but there's no denying his awesome strength.
So, I was thinking about... I was sort of assuming that they were heisting Wakanda in the first one. But now this sounds like a Wakandaman. But I don't... Yeah.
A Wakandaman?
Right?
That's what they're called.
A Wakanda mint.
Wakanda.
God.
I don't know. There is a Waterfalls box, but it feels like bait. Let's keep going.
Okay.
So you...
He gets a hint,
Nate,
right?
Do you want to give
I'll
him a
give him
hint?
a hint.
Yeah.
This is a fun
He
hint.
doesn't have to answer
nice.
Valorant trivia or whatever.
No, that's
it
the
is?
next step.
No, that's the...
That's the next step. Oh, my bad.
Yeah, so for 2 points, he can get it off me. For 1 point, Valorant trivia. So, Pat, you were correct that they're heisting Wakanda, and you're correct that the second person is a Wakandanite.
How is...
They can't. It's just Wakanda, right? It can't possibly be anything else.
I just wanted
No,
to get it
it's a
on the
Wakandament. It's like a condiment, but in Wakanda.
No, that's the food, all right? That's the cuisine.
I don't like being told I'm right, but still not knowing the answer.
But I think
Yeah.
I love it.
Who...
Bots has turned invisible.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Meanwhile,
but
Pat
I leaned
is
back enough
exploring
that
his
All right. This is a very
This list of
thematic
models.
episode. I also own this box because, and I've never assembled either of the models. This is Claude and Baku. Okay.
That is correct.
Nice work.
And for
Saved by
no,
Valorant.
I want a
Valorant
bonus
trivia.
point. Valorant trivia.
Okay, I'll give you one of the questions I had ready. Pat or Vince or Nate, any of you can answer this for 1 point.
My
so,
first.
securing your lead, Pat, or rocketing into second place for Vince or Nate.
Snowman.
Okay. In Champions 2022, so not our most recent one.
Oh,
but
it's
two-
professional Valorant? Oh.
Yeah.
Give me
I'll
a
do.
chance.
Well, sorry, it's just I chose the third one. One of them was the game, and 2 of them are professional Valorant. Because I was expecting it to be for Pat. But in Champions 2022, a controversial turret bug caused a round to be replayed in a competitive match that controversially the players had to come back to sit down again and play the game. Name either of the teams that participated.
I've
in this
never
match
seen
that
Pat
had
Pat
bug.
so
Ding,
excited
ding,
to answer
ding.
a trivia question in my life. Like every game show that he's won, he's never been as excited as he
I might
has
even know
about this
both.
question.
All right, Vince clicks in first, though.
Sure did.
Oh yeah, I'll give you 2 points.
Okay, I'm going to name the one Valorant team I know, 100 Thieves.
It was 100 Thieves did not participate.
Good try.
in this
Good
game.
try.
I don't even think 100 Thieves was at that tournament. I might be wrong about that.
I don't know another
Nate,
Valorant
do you have
team.
I don't remember. I remember this happening, but I have such a bad memory for like who was involved that
I would have been able to do one because I remember one player's specific response, but I wouldn't have been
sure.
able to get both. So it's very impressive, Pat, if you get both. Also, your recorder.
Yes,
just left
I-
the call.
Was
Did
this
something
during
stupid.
the earthquake?
Okay, now there's 2 of you talking.
No, there aren't. Okay.
Vince is gonna have a lot of fun editing this episode.
Yeah, I sure am.
Oh, excuse me.
What one to volunteer to edit? Was this during when you guys went and visited and there was the earthquake?
No, that was this year's.
was 2023.
Sorry,
This
it's
is
confusing now because it's
2022.
2023. We're talking about a tournament from 2022.
This is Xset and Navi.
All right.
Half correct.
That's you got the players right. It was when they were Fun plus Phoenix.
Yes.
When Navi was Fun plus Phoenix, but it was the exact same players. So you were absolutely right. Nice. So that's you got both. So you get a grand total of 10 points while needing 8 to
Oh,
win.
yeah.
Nice work. Oh wait, you got
12
12 points
points
actually anyway because you got it with the.
Bots fucked up
Yeah,
the
you got
score
12
again.
points.
You're fired.
Yes.
Oh god.
All right, guys. I think with that, we've been a size 3 taco truck.